it's like the dog's tail. Even if you put it in, a tube for some time, the moment you take the tube out, the tail will again get twisted. So that's Pakistan for you. We think that we carried out a Balakot strike and that delivered a message. Yes, up to a point it did. But again, I think we botched it up because when we did not go up the escalation ladder last time, the Pakistanis thought, okay, fine, we have provoked the Indians, they've done this, but we also hit back at them. So we are even.
Are we really on top of the escalation ladder? Do you think this time India is going to go the whole hog?
The moment we do something, whether we launch a missile attack on terror training camps or airstrikes or whatever we do, there will be a kind of a retaliation from the Pakistani side. And that is the time where we will have to decide now whether we want to go up. And if we go up, it is possible that on the second rung, the Pakistanis again retaliate. Then you go to the third rung. But beyond a couple of rungs, you will then enter into a full-blown conflict. And you have to be ready for it. We have to be prepared that there will be pushback. We have to understand that if or in retaliation to their pushback, we don't go up the escalation ladder, then we are losing the plot. So we have to control the escalation dominance. They think that, a couple of $100 million will break the back of India. India is not Pakistan. It's not going to make much difference. We can insist that any airline which is overflying Indian territory and has any Pakistani passport holder, they have to issue manifests to us. We've already announced that the missions will be reduced to 30. They've said the same thing. So they are like monkeys with a nuclear weapon, and we need to treat them like that.
Hi, you're watching The Times of India. I'm Aditi Prasad, and with me is strategic affairs expert Sushant Sareen. Sushant, after Pulwama, India did a Balakot. Clearly, that was not enough to get the message across to Pakistan's military jihad complex. I was going through an article or an opinion piece that you wrote this morning, which was titled India's Neighbor from Hell. Can you just make us understand what will take to get the message across to this neighbor?
Aditi, part of the problem has been that in India, we have never really understood our enemies the way we should understand them. And which is why we keep making mistakes which we should not make. And what we have not understood, for example, in the case of Pakistan, is that it is a relentless battle and war against Pakistan to deter it. Now, we think that, okay, fine, we have socked them once and that will be the end of it. They've got the message. No, they've got the message for a point of time, for a period of time. After which, it's like, that old saying or the old cliche, it's like the dog's tail. Even if you put it in, a tube for some time, the moment you take the tube out, the tail will again get twisted. So that's Pakistan for you. Now, if we think that we carried out a Balakot strike and that delivered a message, yes, up to a point it did. But again, I think we botched it up because when we did not go up the escalation ladder last time, we botched it up because the Pakistanis thought, okay, fine, we have provoked the Indians, they've done this, but we also hit back at them. So we are even. And I think you have to remove that concept that the Pakistanis can never get even with us, number one. Number two, you have to have a constant kind of a forays into Pakistan, attacking them the moment they step out of line, rather than waiting for a really big event and then having a situation where you're literally now staring at a possibility of a war breaking out. And let me tell you something, anybody in India, and there are many, I think most people in India think that, well, there'll be some skirmishes, something limited, and this will not necessarily, become a conflagration, a larger conflagration. We should be prepared that it could go down that road. So make all your preparations. If it does not happen, great. But if it happens, then at least you should not be found wanting.
You talked about this escalation ladder, and I really want to talk about it because last time we did a Balakot, but the next day they did an Operation Swift Retort, and then Wing Commander and now Group Captain Abhinandan was taken prisoner, and then he was brought back, but there was no further action. Are we really on top of the escalation ladder? Do you think this time India is going to go the whole hog?
Aditi, there is a saying कि अगर दम नहीं है तो पंगा मत लो. And so my point is that look, the people who are the planners, military planners, they rather than indulging in false bravado and blusters, something which the Pakistanis routinely do, I think the
Hmm.
Indian side needs to be a lot more, in a sense, I don't have the exact word, but not need to be
Circumspect.
more sober about it, which
Yeah.
normally they uh, and they need to decide when they say that we will do it at a time and place of our choosing. Then they need to decide whether they can control the escalation dominance. uh, and if they can, then by all means go ahead and do what needs to be done. I think in many ways we are in a better shape today than we were in 2019. uh, but do we enjoy that superiority that we really need to sock the Pakistanis really hard? Uh, that's a question which should be answered in the next couple of days, couple of weeks, maybe couple of hours. Who knows what they have in store?
Hmm.
But I would imagine that this is something that we really need to start focusing on. And this is something which um, a lot of people like me have been saying that look, as far as our defense planning is concerned, we need to be a lot more focused on the kind of enemies we have, and the kind of threats and challenges we are likely to confront, not
Hmm.
just with Pakistan, which has always been, this dog snapping at India's heel, but also a much more fearsome adversary, which is China, with a lot many capabilities than these thugs on our western borders have. So I think we need to have different strategies for different countries, different levels of preparedness for different enemies. It's not a one size fits all. uh, what we need to do with the Chinese would be a lot more asymmetric compared to what we do with the Pakistanis. That is something which the Pakistanis would try to do to us, an
Sure.
asymmetric pull this surprise on us, and we have to be prepared for those surprises.
What are the options on the table? Of course, there is the diplomatic options, which India has already exercised in all its entirety.
I don't think the diplomatic or the economic actions have been exercised in entirety. I think there's a lot more that can be done. Uh, but look, we also have to understand one thing, Aditi, that whether it's diplomatic, whether it's economic options, whether it's political options, whatever the option be, there is nothing which is costless or riskless. There will be risks and costs involved in whatever option we pick. Now, if you want that, there will be no pushback from the other side, then I think we are deluding ourselves. So we have to be
Do you?
prepared that there will be pushback. We have to understand that in retaliation to their pushback, we don't go up the escalation ladder, then we are losing the plot. So we have to control the escalation dominance uh, in the kinetic domain. Even on the other side. So, for example, now let me give you an example. They've said, okay, fine, they've closed their airspace to us. The Pakistanis are such petty bloody pigs. They think that a couple of $100 million will break the back of India. India is not Pakistan. It's not going to make much difference. Yeah, there'll be this inconvenience of an additional hour in a flight, but beyond that, nothing more than that. Maybe hour and a half. Okay, so maybe there is much more aviation turbine fuel which is used. But what can we do? We can simply sever Pakistan's links to rest of uh, the countries in South Asia. So we can, for example, tell people that there will be no South Asian airline which can overfly India and land in Pakistan. We can take certain decisions like that. We can impact if we really want to do it, and that will affect other airlines as well. We can insist that any airline which is overflying Indian territory and has any Pakistani passport holder, they have to
With us.
issue manifests to us before they, fly over Indian territory. So, for example, if the Pakistanis are using any Gulf airline or any other airline to send terrorists into Bangladesh or into Nepal or some other country so that they can be infiltrated into India, we can do it. Now, this is really upping the ante. Okay. The Americans do it. Maybe I'm not comparing India with America, but maybe this is something which needs to be explored. So, like I said, there are a whole range of other options which can be explored. But of course, if we do this, then the Pakistanis will insist that please give us manifests of any Indian passport holder who is overflying Pakistan. They will, of course, do it because the Pakistanis have an utter lack of imagination. I don't know. I think that's
Exactly.
part of bringing in their training. They are like monkeys who will only try and replicate what we are trying to do, which you have seen yesterday what they have done. We announced that we've already withdrawn the defense attaches, our defense attaches, but they say now we are going to declare them PNG. Okay,
Hmm.
we've already announced that the missions will be reduced to 30. They've said the same thing. So they are like monkeys with a nuclear weapon, and we need to treat them like that.
As you said, there'll be a cost if there is a full blown war. If the military option is exercised, do you think it will be a covert action, or will it be a full-blown war, or a mixture of both? What do you see, going by your understanding, experiences, and what you're hearing?
Look, covert actions are always on the cards, but I'm not so sure if the covert actions will deliver the kind of message which needs to be delivered.
Hmm.
So I would imagine there will have to be some kind of, uh, you know, well publicized kinetic action taken place. Uh, Again, the moment we do something, whether we launch a missile attack on terror training camps or airstrikes or whatever we do, there will be a kind of a retaliation from the Pakistani side uh, to show that they're very much in this game. And that is the time where we will have to decide now whether we want to go up. And if we go up, it is possible that on the second run, the Pakistanis again retaliate. Then you go to the third run. Uh, but beyond a couple of runs, you will then enter into a full blown conflict. And you have to be ready for it. The other thing you have to be ready for is that you need to understand that if you are going to then be focused on, say, a pilot who has been shot down and captured in Pakistan, or a couple of soldiers who were part of a raiding party who were probably captured inside Pakistan, and then that becomes your focus and not the entire operation, then again you've lost the plot. So, like I
Hmm.
said, there will be costs to be paid. There will be a lot of cost that you will extract out of Pakistan, but there will be cost that we will also have to pay. Again, if we strike at some civilian targets of theirs, the Pakis will do the same thing. At that point of time, the people should not start complaining and should not start saying that, look, okay, now let's end it. We've done what we wanted to do. If you want to get into a kinetic situation, then there is a certain logic to it. If you do not follow the logic to it, you lose the plot. If you follow the logic to it, then you entail certain risks which you will have to take on board. And if you don't want to do it, then it's okay. Then you carry out the other non-kinetic options for whatever that's worth. And I'm not saying that's not worth anything, but I think you need to be prepared somewhere along the line, even when you use non-kinetic options. For example, like the Indus Waters Treaty,
Yeah.
maybe we can interrupt some of the flows right now. Maybe in an year from now, 2 years from now, we will be in a better position to manipulate the water supplies into Pakistan. At that point of time, it will be Pakistan's call whether they want to make it a hot war or not a hot war. And then, what is our level of capability at that point of time? So I think you need to game this whole thing out, and you need to start understanding the demonic mindset inside Pakistan that you're dealing with. Our problem is that we deal with a couple of people like us, who speak with a certain accent, who will try and be very nice and very moderate and very liberal, and will try and tell us that they love their whiskey, and then we think, oh, fine, man, he's a guy like he's not. These Najam Sethi type of, pardon my French, these are people who are just as bad as a Hafiz Saeed. Assure you that. There is another guy, Murtaza Solangi, right now. I thought he was a friend at one point of time. That low life Sindhi who's now literally like a keep of the Pakistan army. The guy is now saying this was a false flag attack. That they have
Really?
no shame. They have no shame whatsoever. So, frankly speaking, I think we fool ourselves by thinking that they're people like us. They are not. They are a completely different class of people, different race of people, and you have to treat them like that. They
You know,
are not your friends. Yeah, maybe some of these people whose parents have lost wars of India and become ambassadors, maybe they can consider them to be friends because that's
hmm.
they come from that culture. But I don't think any other Indian should even harbor the thought that these people can be our friends. They're not.
You talked about the Pakistanis and what they're doing, and I was just listening to the Pakistani parliamentarians in their parliament earlier a couple of hours ago, and you're right, they perhaps need a reality check because MP after MP was getting up and taunting the Indian army. It's like ulta chor kotwal ko dante wala scene chal raha hai wahan pe. वो Pakistan MPs are taunting the Indian army, pinning the security lapse blame for the Pahalgam attack on the army, and
That
they
Aditi,
really need a reality check.
Aditi, number one, a security lapse, it does not justify a terrorist massacre. Okay, the two things cannot be conflated. Number two, these are the same Pakistani. That's why I call them utterly, dredges of humanity, all these Pakistanis. These are the same people who also say that 9/11 was a Jewish conspiracy. That no Jew died when the Twin Towers fell down because the Jews
Really.
had this conspiracy, right?
Hmm.
Uh, they also say that this was an inside job. All of these characters. You ask them, they are the same people who said Osama bin Laden is a martyr, right? Uh, so this is the kind of sick mindset we are dealing with. Now, I don't expect any shame from them. I don't expect any contrition from them. Even when they condemn something, I don't take them seriously because I know they're totally insincere. So, this is our fault that we seek something from these guys. This is our fault. And we haven't understood this even 80 years from now. And I can assure you, we are such duffers that if supposing things were to come back on rails, you will wait and see for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, if there was some kind of a peace process was to start, we would go back to square one. We are that big idiots. So, this is an endless cycle of pain that we will
Right.
have to.
But Prime Minister Modi, when he was speaking in Bihar yesterday in a rally, and then he switched over to English, perhaps in a message, because I'm sure there weren't many people in his audiences because Bihar is a Hindi speaking state, a Hindi belt state. But he switched over to English, probably sending a message to the world that he's going to hunt down every last one of them to the ends of the earth. So probably, as you're talking about, the kinetic action is going to happen, and but many military experts are pointing out to the local support that these attackers received, and also the involvement of homegrown terrorists. I want to understand from you about these overground militant networks in the valley. It's been several years since the abrogation of Article 370. We've been talking about normalcy. Why have we failed to wipe them out despite 6 years of unprecedented crackdown?
Aditi, it's a work in progress. Okay, and sometimes what happens is that if there's been a lull for too long, nothing has really happened. There is a sense of normalcy, which is pervasive. Then a sense of complacency also comes in, and you think, yeah, nothing is really happening. It's okay, it's fine, it's all cool. There's no real threat. It happens, especially when you've been facing with terrorism in Kashmir, for example, for what, almost 40 years now. So, this kind of a thing will happen. So, again, Article 370 being, watered down or being made toothless, it hasn't been abrogated technically because it's still there in the Constitution.
Hmm.
But having been watered down is a very necessary condition, but it is not sufficient. there has been a separatist, Islamist, jihadist sentiment in Kashmir over the years. It is not going to disappear. There's no magic bullet with which that will disappear. So it's a constant work in progress. And I think a lot of progress has been made. But look, it is not as though it was the whole village or a whole district that had come out to massacre people. All that it took was 3 people, 4 people, 5 people with guns to come in an unguarded area and massacre people. That is all it took, right? But it
Yeah.
has shaken up the entire system. So the point is, while it's easy to say eternal vigilance, there's no substitute for that. It is difficult to maintain an eternal vigilance, but we have to keep trying. You have to keep trying and hunting them down within Kashmir. You have to keep attacking at their ecosystem. You have to make sure that whatever economic support lines they have, whatever helplines they have, whatever networks they have, those have to be denuded, they have to be degraded, they have to be destroyed. You have to do all of that, but it's a time consuming process. And most importantly, somewhere we have not succeeded to the extent we should have, is how to get the politics in that union territory to a point where politically you have enormous amounts of support against the kind of action that is being taken against terror networks.
Hmm.
Even now you have some parties and some leaders in Kashmir who will hunt with the hare, hunt with the hound and run with the hare. You have that double game kind of a policy even now. So I
Hmm.
think you need to make sure that that kind of politics uh, is completely unacceptable. But then
Do you
that's the kind of politics you have in rest of India as well. What do you do?
right? What politics apart, do you see a full-scale India-Pakistan war blowing out, especially given that the Prime Minister has been very vocal about this? And perhaps, do you think now is, and sorry for the use of the word, the perfect opportunity? And I don't want to for any for even a minute, uh, call it a good opportunity or a bad opportunity, because 26 people have been massacred. But at this time, many Indian ministers have been talking about getting back POK from Pakistan or teaching Pakistan a lesson. Do you think now is the time to go the full hog?
Look, if you think that you can go the whole hog, win back POK, and not suffer a major loss in the process, by all means, go ahead and do it. Number one, people should understand POK is a dump. Muzaffarabad is a one road town kind of a deal, maybe 2 roads. There's nothing out there. The people out there suck. Uh, it's not even Kashmir technically. Now, okay, I understand it is a part of India technically, and we need to keep striving to get it. But I would imagine that it's a better strategy to make sure that they want to join us rather than we wanting to grab them. So create conditions for that rather than having to fight a war. Number two, we should always remember wars are extremely expensive business, not just in terms of men and material, but they have devastating consequences on your security and on your economy. So I think we should get into wars by having worked out all you know various possibilities and fallouts before you just jump into something. Number three, if we are going to take strong action and kinetic action, and I have nothing against it, let me make it very clear. Uh, Ensure that you're prepared for that final thing, which is a full blown war. You should not enter. And there are a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues who will say that no, no, you are being alarmist. My point is, I'd rather be an alarmist and be prepared than jump into something and then say, oh shit, what has happened? Maybe I should have prepared better. So
You
I
mean
want
like
to,
you mean like Netanyahu, stay the course, even if Gaza turns into a cemetery?
yeah. So not only, see, it was easy for the Israelis to mobilize. They had that kind of a system. Also, the opposition which they faced is not really uh, as much of an opposition that we are going to be facing. I think we should recognize that the kind of air superiority Israel had, we don't have. We have somebody on the other side who also has aircraft firing back at us, who also have a very reasonably good air defense system. They also have artillery. They also have a standing army. Hamas was, at the end of the day, a terror organization, right? Nothing else, with no air power, nothing. So there were advantages which the Israelis have, which we will not have. I think we should be cognizant of those realities. Uh, the point I'm trying to make is that if you're going into a kind of kinetic action, then ensure that
You
you
come
are
out a winner.
it will it could escalate eventually to a point where there's a full-blown conflagration. You cannot be so cavalier as to get into a situation like this and then say, oh damn, I never thought that this is also possible. It might not happen. Probably it's a very long shot. But I think war is too serious a business for it to be taken lightly and to be taken in a very cavalier manner and with assumptions which may or may not hold. What if those assumptions don't hold? And I can tell you that many people would have thought that after you did Balakot, the Pakistanis won't do anything. There would have been certainly some people who would have imagined that. So
But they
when the
did.
Pakistanis did whatever they did, then we should have been prepared to go up now and say, okay, fine, now we are coming back even harder and stronger. But we said, okay, fine, you've got some wing commanders, so fine, right now let us get him
Give him
back.
back. Right.
But
So
that's
you're saying that you don't see or you do see a full scale war between India
I
Pakistan
can
breaking
rule it.
out, but you would like the military planners to cross all the T's and dot all the I's before they go into it and go into it with their eyes open.
Precisely, because I don't rule out that possibility. I might admit that it's probably a long shot, but I don't rule it out. So
Or
I would rather be prepared for it than be caught by surprise.
All right. Thank you, Sushant, for those perspectives. We'll come back to you because this is not going to die down in a hurry. This seems like something which is going to last for some time at least. We hope to see you and get your perspective again on what's happening, what are the developments, and how we should strategically look at getting our own. And basically, if we get into a situation of kinetic action, then at least make sure that we're coming out of it a winner. Thank you so much for your time, Sushant.
Thanks.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you.